Okay, let's dive right into this one. Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're getting our hands dirty with Brutal Bash. For you focused learners out there who love geeking out over exactly how a system ticks, well, you're in for a treat. We're looking at a retro-tech tactical tabletop game that somehow mashes up that gritty 90s toy culture nostalgia with some genuinely crazy digital mechanics. And today, it's all about the game mechanics. We're going to break down how you play, how you fight, and most importantly, how you actually win. Here's the roadmap for today. First, a quick welcome to Brutal Bash. 2, preparing your squad. 3, action points and movement. 4, engaging in combat. And finally, number 5, completing those tactical missions. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. Welcome to Brutal Bash. Retro aesthetics meet modern tech.
So just to give you a quick taste of this universe, which is heavily inspired by 90s action figures, by the way, check out the 2 main factions you'll be commanding. On one side, we've got the Doom Beasts, like the heavily armored Alpha. These guys actually used to be ordinary animals before a massive global network glitch completely mutated them. They don't just walk across the board, they literally rewrite the digital space as they hunt for data. On the flip side, you have the Scrap Skulls, represented by heavy hitters like the Steamy Brute. These guys rely entirely on brutal engineering and massive chunks of rusted scrap to dominate the grid. It's basically wild, unpredictable code crashing headfirst into heavy, rusted metal. But here is the real kicker, the thing that makes this game tick. Its NFC hybrid system. Inside your physical stat cards and the models themselves is actual working NFC tech. While you're playing, you actively scan these to trigger totally dynamic variations. We're talking hitting missions popping up or a sudden shield deployment out of nowhere. It makes every single match completely unpredictable. And since the same card can actually have different effects based on whatever the current global campaign is, the game is, literally, constantly evolving.
Moving on to Section 2, preparing your squad. Strategy before the clash.
Now, before you even think about rolling a die or moving a figure, you've got to build your squad. And remember, you're playing on a super tight 6x6 grid, meaning every single deployment choice is absolutely crucial. Setting up is pretty deliberate, just 2 steps. Step 1, out of the 4 available fighters in your chosen faction, you pick exactly 3. Boom, that's your squad. Step 2, you equip each of those 3 models with exactly 1 unique NFC stat card. So the crucial point here is that strict limitation. Because each model can only carry 1 single NFC card, that choice, that is your most critical tactical decision. That 1 card dictates their unique weapons, their shields, and even their personal missions. You really have to ask yourself, how are these 3 specific cards going to synergize out there on the grid?
Let's take a closer look at one of these cards, Snipa Gobo. Down at the bottom, you've got 4 core stats. Now, they are printed in Swedish in the original game, but let's translate them for the sake of our mechanics deep dive. First up is Styrka, which is your strength, what you use for attacking. Next is Taligit, meaning toughness, obviously used for defending. Then there's Snabbit, your speed, dictating how far you can move. And finally, Intelligence, your intelligence. Getting a solid grip on these 4 numbers is really the baseline for every single move you make on the board. So how exactly do you get your hands on these different NFC cards to kit out your squad? Well, they went with a super nostalgic, highly addictive 90s mechanic, blind bag booster packs. You know, exactly like the ones you'd rip open in the backseat of the car on the way home from the toy store. Each pack comes with 4 cards. You're guaranteed 2 commons, giving you your basic equipment and missions. Then you get 1 uncommon, which might give you a sneaky tactical edge, like a push bonus or maybe some extra movement. From there, you've got roughly an 80% chance to pull a rare card, which grants the really heavy gear, like exoskeletons. And if you are just insanely lucky, like a 1 to 2% chance kind of lucky, you might pull a super glitch card. These give you absolute rule-breaking abilities that can completely dominate the server.
All right, Section 3, action points and movement, controlling the grid.
Okay, your squad is equipped, they're deployed, and the match kicks off. The flow of combat here uses an alternating activation system, but they've thrown in a fantastic twist. Right at the start of the round, you check the initiative values of every single figure on the board. Then you mash them together to create one single shared activation queue for both players, going from highest initiative straight down to the lowest. Whoever has the absolute highest initiative acts first, period. Doesn't matter which faction they belong to. Think about what that means. If you built a particularly fast squad, you could literally activate 2 of your figures back to back before your opponent even blinks. It turns initiative into a massive, massive tactical advantage. When it's finally your figure's turn in that queue, they get exactly 2 action points, or AP. That's it. That is your strict resource limit for the activation. The options you have are pretty straightforward, but they give you a ton of flexibility. Spend 1 AP to move across the board up to your speed stat. Spend 1 AP to interact, which usually means completing a specific mission objective right on the tile you're standing on. Spend 1 AP to engage in combat, whether that's getting in close for melee or taking a shot from a distance. Or, if you want, just spend 1 AP to pass and hold your ground. You just mix and match those 2 little points however you need to for that specific moment.
Let's actually look at movement in action. Take Slimy Tongue. This delightfully horrifying little creature has a snap head, or speed, of 4. When you burn 1 AP to move, you can cross up to 4 tiles. And movement on this grid is incredibly free. You can go horizontally, vertically, or even diagonally. Every single step into an adjacent tile just costs 1 point of your total speed. The only real catch is you can't pass through a tile if there's already another unit or a piece of terrain blocking it. But on a tiny 6x6 board, a speed of 4 is absolutely huge for outmaneuvering the enemy. Which brings us to Section 4, Engaging in Combat, the Clash of Code and Metal. Naturally, all this tactical dancing around is eventually going to lead to a fight. Combat resolution in Brutal Bash is super fast, relying on a really simple but highly effective dice system. To start a melee, you've got to be in an adjacent tile to your target and spend that 1 AP. Then, the attacker rolls 1 6-sided die and adds their strength stat. The defender rolls 1 6-sided die and adds their toughness stat. Simple, right? If the attacker's total is higher, the hit lands, and the defender loses 1 toughness point. But if it's a draw, or if the defender actually rolls higher, the attack straight up fails. And that right there is where the game introduces arguably one of its coolest mechanics. And this brilliantly illustrates the tactical depth we're talking about. It's called the Brutal Push. If you're the one defending and you win or even tie that combat roll, you don't just block the attack. You actually get to physically manipulate the board. You can choose to forcefully shove the attacker 1 tile away into an empty space. Or if things are getting too hot, you can make a tactical retreat and move your own unit up to 2 tiles away. This is exactly why positioning is everything. Combat isn't just about draining health, it's about physically controlling the grid. You can quite literally shove enemy units right off of mission objectives.
Now you might be wondering, what about ranged combat? Take Crestbrute, getting ready to lob a grenade. If a unit has the ranged symbol, they can shoot. Your maximum range is exactly equal to your speed stat, and the dice math is exactly the same, 1d6 plus strength versus 1d6 plus toughness. But there is a catch. If the defender wins or ties against a ranged attack, they do not get to use the Brutal Push on you. They only get to reposition themselves. So it's a high-reward play to take shots from across the board, for sure. But the risk is, if you miss, that enemy just got a free move and is now perfectly positioned to charge you the very next activation.
All right, final stretch, Section 5. Completing tactical missions, winning the war.
Mindlessly attacking everything in sight isn't going to guarantee you a win. You have to secure victory points by the end of round 5. At the start of a standard match, you just roll a die to determine which of the 6 missions you're going to play, and the variety is honestly fantastic. Data Harvest makes you spend AP to control specific nodes. System Overload is your classic gritty deathmatch, just wipe out all 3 enemy fighters. Glitch Protocol introduces these corrupted tiles that hurt you, but they give you massive movement buffs if you can survive them. Scrap Collector is literally a fetch quest across the board, and then you have these cool faction-specific missions, like Energy Glitch for the Doom Beasts or Infrastructure Control for the Scrap Skulls, which just tie perfectly into their lore. But wait, here is the game's ultimate mechanical twist. We just talked about rolling a die for a standard shared mission, right? Well, if you equipped one of your models with an NFC card that contains a specific mission, that physical card literally hacks the game. You completely overwrite the standard mission with your own. And it gets wilder. If both players happen to have an NFC mission card equipped, both missions become active on the board at the exact same time. You could be desperately trying to harvest data nodes, while your opponent is running around frantically collecting scrap, and you both have the chance to hijack and steal each other's objectives.
And honestly, that is the beauty of Brutal Bash's game mechanics. It takes this tiny, simple 6x6 grid and just layers it with incredible depth through alternating initiative, the Brutal Push, and that completely game-changing NFC equipment system. So, the question I'll leave you with as you prep for your first tabletop match is this. When you finally deploy your squad, are you going to rely entirely on brute strength and perfect positioning, or will you master your NFC loadout to literally rewrite the rules of the grid in your favor? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.